Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome, everyone. Today we're taking a stack of sources covering a story that's, well, it's deeply disturbing.
It really is. Chilling, but also incredibly a story of resilience.
Exactly. We're looking at the crimes of a serial killer, yes, but also the extraordinary survival of one young woman who helped bring him down.
A story that shows both the worst of humanity and maybe the strongest parts of it, too.
Right. So let's start where the sources do. Tampa, Florida, 1984. A series of events began that really put the whole area on edge.
It started in May 3rd, 1984. The first victim was found, Dejenia DeLong. She was only 19.
Found near a pedestrian bridge on Highway 60. And the details were grim from the start.
Naked, raped, hands tied behind her back, ligature mark on her neck. The sources mentioned she was identified as a sex worker.
Then just 2 weeks later, May 27th.
That's right. Michelle Denise Sims, 22 years old, found about 28 miles away, but the circumstances, very similar.
Almost identical, wasn't it? Raped, clothes scattered nearby, that same ligature mark. Police must have known right away.
Oh, absolutely. This wasn't random. And with Sims, they found something specific. Red fibers on her body.
Red fibers? Like from clothing or...
They suspected carpet fibers. Just a small detail then, but it becomes hugely important later.
Okay, so 2 victims, similar methods, locations not too far apart. Is pointing towards one person, a serial killer.
Definitely. The urgency must have been intense.
Yes.
And there was another detail connecting them, the knot.
The knot used for the strangulation.
Yeah. The sources point this out. It wasn't just any knot. It was a specific type, apparently often used for, training dogs or animals.
What's significant about that?
It's designed to tighten more the harder the victim struggles. It's just calculation, practice, maybe.
Wow. That's chilling. And things escalated fast after that.
Very fast. June 1984, 2 more victims. Elizabeth Graham, 22. She was a welder, lived near where the second victim, Sims, worked.
Okay.
And Vicki Murray Wetherell, 21. Same horrific pattern. Raped, bound, strangle.
And it just kept going.
It did. Over the next few months, victims 5, 6, and 7. Chanel Jarrell Williams, 18. Last seen end of September, found October 10th.
Her case was slightly different, wasn't it?
Yeah, the sources note she was shot twice, head and neck, but also raped. Then Carolyn Windhorse, 28, and Kimberly Kim, 22. Both sex workers, like some earlier victims, in the same general area.
So wait, that's 7 victims in just 6 months.
Exactly, May to October 1984. You can imagine the fear spreading, especially among women in that area. It felt like he couldn't be stopped.
Just a wave of terror. Okay, so this brings us to a crucial point in the sources. The 8th victim.
Right. This is where we meet Lisa McVeigh.
And Lisa. Lisa survived.
She did. She was 17 in 1984. And her life leading up to this, it was incredibly difficult. The sources paint a really tough picture.
Raised by a single mother struggling with addiction, alcohol and drugs.
Yeah, profound struggles. And for Lisa, physical abuse, starting from when she was just 2 years old.
2 years old. That's awful.
Yeah.
Followed by instability.
Periods of homelessness, foster care. Then at 14, she went to live with her grandmother.
But they weren't close.
No, barely knew each other, the sources say. And then there was the grandmother's boyfriend, much younger.
Right, and this is critical context. Lisa endured 3 years of sexual and physical abuse from him while living there.
With the grandmother apparently either complicit or just turning a blind eye. Horrible situation.
This is Lisa's state of mind just before the abduction. She felt trapped. Hopeless.
Completely. The sources actually reveal she was planning to end her own life. She felt it was the only way out of the abuse at home. She'd even written a goodbye note.
Knowing that makes what happens next even more intense. Okay, so it's November 3rd, 1984. Late night.
Leah's working a double shift at Krispy Kreme. Sources say she actually liked the job, the customer interaction, the donuts. She finished around 2 a.m.
Riding her bike home. Just a short ride, maybe 8 or 10 minutes.
She passes a church parking lot, notices a car idling there. She pauses for a second, just curious.
And then, bam, attack comes out of nowhere.
Sudden, violent. A big guy tackles her from behind, hand over her mouth, gun to her side, tells her not to scream or he'll kill her.
But here's the really incredible part, psychologically.
Yeah, this is amazing. In that instant, facing death, something shifted in Lisa. That intense fear, it just completely wiped out her earlier suicidal thoughts.
The value of her life just became crystal clear.
Exactly. She realized right then she wanted to live, desperately. Despite the threat, she screamed.
But he overpowered her?
Quickly silenced her, dragged her to the car, whispering promises like, cooperate and I'll let you go. Standard manipulation.
Puts her in the back seat, blindfolds her, But she's not just passive.
No way. Her survival instinct, maybe sharpened by everything she'd already endured, just takes over. She knows she has to use her brain to get out of this.
And she comes up with this clever trick with the blindfold.
It's remarkable. She forces her face into this huge, wide smile, stretches everything out.
So that when she relaxes,
the blindfold loosens just a tiny bit, enough to create a small gap at the bottom. She could see glimpses.
Wow. And what did she see? What did she start noticing?
Crucial details. She sees it's a red car, maybe a Cutlass Sierra, she thinks, white interior, and she sees text on the dash or somewhere that says Magnum.
Magnum. Okay. Anything else inside?
Yes. Red carpet, remember those fibers?
The red fibers found on Michelle's Sims. Unbelievable. She's seeing the source.
Exactly, without even knowing its significance yet. She's just observing, gathering data. She also tried to figure out where they were going. I thought maybe North Florida.
Her mind is just working constantly. And then the idea about physical evidence.
This is maybe the most astounding part. She realizes she needs to leave something behind. Something with DNA.
And she thinks so.
Her menstrual pad. She was having her period. She manages to take it off and strategically hides it under the carpet in his car.
Think about that. In that situation, the terror. To have the foresight to think about forensic evidence.
It's extraordinary how many people could do that.
Okay, so the drive isn't long.
About 15 minutes, she estimated. They stop. He gets out with her.
She gets a sense of the location.
Apartment complex area, trees or woods nearby. But she's smart. She pretends she can't see anything through the blindfold. Doesn't want him to know how aware she is.
Makes him underestimate her.
Right. He leads her into the building, then into his apartment.
And she keeps observing, even inside.
Through that tiny gap, yes. She smells fresh paint. She sees the floor is green.
Trying to get details about him, too.
As much as she can. Tall, large build, white. Can't see his face clearly. But she notices he seems left-handed. Just banking all these details.
Then he tells her to go into the bathroom.
Yeah, remove her clothes, but keep the blindfold on.
And even then, she doesn't shut down. She tries to talk to him.
She does. Asks him, why are you doing this? Tries to understand.
And he actually answers. He confesses.
Shockingly, yeah. He says he just broke up with his wife. And then admits he's done this before. Abducted and hurt other women. Said he'd done worse things.
Hearing that must have been terrifying, but also...
Yeah.
Maybe gave her an angle.
Yeah, possibly. Knowing his motive, his loneliness, maybe she felt she could use that. And while she's in the bathroom, supposedly just complying.
She's leaving more evidence.
Deliberately. Touching everything. Toilet, lid, sink, tub, mirror, even hair dryer she spots. Leaving fingerprints everywhere. Just methodical.
Then the assault happens.
Yes. The sources say she pleaded with him, told him about the previous abuse she'd suffered from her grandmother's boyfriend.
Did that have any effect?
It seemed to soften him slightly, the sources suggest. Maybe triggered something. But he still raped her. Though, reportedly, maybe without additional extreme violence beyond the assault itself.
She's held captive overnight.
Into the next morning, yeah. Still blindfolded. He makes her breakfast, they eat, watch TV, like some grotesque parody of normalcy.
Until the news report comes on.
Yeah, a report about her disappearance. Using the name Lisa Rose, her grandmother's boyfriend's surname she was using then.
And she starts crying.
Understandably. But his reaction? Instant threat. Pulls the gun, points it at her head, tells her, stop crying, now.
And she does.
She forces herself to stop. He continues to sexually assault her through that day and night.
But she's still thinking, still trying to find a way out. The next morning.
Early hours, maybe 4 or 5 a.m., she talks to him again, tries a completely new strategy.
What does she do?
She appeals directly to that loneliness he mentioned. Suggests they could be a couple. He's alone, needs affection, she needs to live, presents it as a solution for both of them.
Wow. Playing on his needs.
And she adds a story about needing to get home to care for a sick father, totally fabricated. She didn't have a father figure then. Uses this pleading, childlike tone.
Trying to generate sympathy?
Yeah.
But she's also doing something else while she's talking.
Yes. While acting affectionate, pretending to care, she deliberately reaches out and touches his face.
Why? Just to seem convincing.
Partly, but it was also reconnaissance. Gathering more data. She feels his features, notes a mustache area that feels recently shaved, feels his ears, notes they seem small. It's incredibly calculated.
Combining emotional manipulation with intelligence gathering.
Yeah.
Did it work? Did he hesitate?
It seemed to. This whole performance, this plea, it made him pause. He seemed uncertain about killing her now.
And then he makes a decision.
He tells her basically, I can't be with you, but then get dressed. I'll take you back.
He's going to release her.
That's what he says. A huge, unbelievable moment. Her strategy seems to have worked, but she's still wary.
Of course.
Yeah.
Is he really taking her back? Or somewhere else?
Exactly. Back in the car, front seat this time, still blindfolded with her little vision gap, she notices they stop at an ATM. She clocks the machine, the location.
Does she think about escaping then?
She considers it. She feels she might be able to make a run for it, but she makes a calculated risk assessment.
What's the calculation?
If she runs and he catches her, she's dead for sure. He'll be enraged. She decides to trust, just for now, that he might actually keep his word. Puts her life on that bet.
The drive back must have been agonizing.
Extremely tense. He drives past the street where he grabbed her, not once, but like 4 times. Back and forth.
Like he's arguing with himself?
Yeah. Sources say he was muttering things like, should I send her back? Debating it out loud. Lisa stays completely silent, doesn't want to spook him.
Finally, he stops.
Near the original spot, he even mentions a big oak tree there, tells her to get out, but stay put for 5 minutes. Don't take the blindfold off yet.
Does he say anything else?
Before he leaves, the sources report, he actually says he's sorry, apologizes for what he did, then drives off.
And Lisa waits.
She waits the full 5 minutes, exactly as told, then takes off the blindfold, sees the church, the oak tree, realizes she's actually free. She just runs home.
But the homecoming, it wasn't what you'd hoped for.
Heartbreakingly, no. Her grandmother and the boyfriend, upset she was gone, yeah, but they don't believe her story. Accuse her of running off, sneaking out.
They didn't believe the abduction, the rape.
No. And worse, the boyfriend physically abused her again that night and sexually assaulted her again after everything she'd just survived.
Unbelievable cruelty. Did they call the police?
The grandmother did, but apparently just said Lisa was back, stop searching. Police did come eventually to investigate her disappearance.
And Lisa tells them what happened.
She tries. The first team, sources say it was led by a female detective. They didn't believe her either. Dismissed her whole account, especially the details she observed, the evidence she tried to leave.
How devastating. After everything she did to survive and help.
She was insistent, frustrated, demanded a new investigator. Thankfully, a male detective took over.
And he listened.
He listened to every single detail, and he believed her, finally.
And her details, her memory.
Yeah.
That's what cracked the case.
Absolutely. Her recollections were the key. The description of the car. Red Cutlass Sierra, Magnum text, white interior, red carpet.
Police could work with that.
They searched records for cars matching that exact description in Florida, found only a few, then the ATM.
She remembered the location and the time.
Yes. Police checked the transaction logs for that specific ATM around the time Lisa said they stopped there.
So they cross-referenced the car owners with the ATM users.
And bingo. One name matches both lists. Bobby Joe Long.
Now they have a prime suspect. But they need to be careful.
Right. They can't just arrest him based on that alone, might tip him off. So they stayed a traffic stop. Pretend it's routine about stolen cars, maybe?
Allows them to get photos of his car. Maybe see inside without a warrant.
Exactly. And they follow him. Confirm his apartment location matches Lisa's memory of where she was held.
Then they show Lisa his photo.
In a lineup. And even though she never saw his face clearly, based on everything else, the build, the features she felt, the overall impression, she identifies Bobby Joe Long. She confirms he's the one.
So who was this guy, Bobby Joe Long? What do the sources say about his background?
Well, it seems he had a difficult childhood. And significantly, a history of multiple head injuries. Falls, bike accident, even hit by friends, and later a car accident.
Any early signs of trouble?
Sources mention he was suspected of raping a girl when he was 17, but wasn't charged. Lack of evidence, apparently.
He got married later.
Yeah, 1975, to Cynthia Brown. She initially thought he was, the perfect guy. Tall, good-looking, responsible, good job. They had 2 kids, bought a house. He liked motorcycles.
But something changed.
Yeah.
That head injury history.
There was a specific motorcycle accident. Sources pinpoint this as causing a traumatic brain injury, TBI.
And his wife noticed a difference after that.
A huge difference. Cynthia reported his personality changed drastically, especially sexually. His preferences became violent, sadistic, needing to hurt her during sex.
Did she seek help?
She talked to a doctor. The doctor suggested it might be the TBI, maybe it would improve, but it got worse.
And the violence wasn't just sexual.
No, it escalated. One day, after an argument, he physically assaulted her badly. Hit her head against the TV, choked her. She survived but was injured.
That must have been the final straw.
It was. That prompted Cynthia to file for divorce in 1980. He resisted, but she went through with it, reporting the abuse. The divorce was granted.
And then he moved
to Florida about a year later. And that's when, according to the timeline in the sources, the serial killings began.
Okay, so police have identified him thanks to Lisa. They move to arrest him.
November 16th, 1984. They arrest him after he leaves a movie theater. By then, he's wanted in 3 jurisdictions based on the mounting evidence.
And the forensic evidence just confirms everything.
Overwhelmingly. Those red carpet fibers from his car matched the fibers found on Eugenia DeLong and Michelle Sims.
Wow. Lisa's observation was spot on.
Absolutely crucial. Semen samples linked him to multiple rapes, and the ligature marks on the victims' necks matched his signature knot.
That specific animal training knot.
The very same. All the pieces fit. It pointed conclusively to Bobby Joe Long for the murders and for Lisa's abduction and rape.
Did he confess?
Faced with all that evidence, yes. He confessed to the 7 murders we talked about earlier, and he confessed to Lisa's abduction and rape.
Anything else?
Chillingly, yes. He also confessed to raping over 50 other women. Women he didn't kill. After his arrest, police also linked him to 2 more victims found later.
2 more.
Kim Marie Spires, 21, strangled, found after his arrest. She was the 9th victim. And Virginia Lee Johnson, 18, who disappeared in October 84, found in November. The 10th victim.
So, 10 murders in total, plus Lisa's survival and potentially dozens of other assaults. What happened at trial?
He faced numerous charges across different cases and counties. For Lisa's case specifically, the sources say he got 5 years for the abduction and rape.
Which seems low, given everything, but there were other sentences.
Oh, yes. Cumulatively, it was astronomical. Multiple 99-year sentences, 28 sentences of life imprisonment, and ultimately 1 sentence of death.
He was sentenced to death. Did he appeal?
For years. The appeals process went on for a long time, but the death sentence was eventually upheld.
And the execution.
Bobby Joe Long was executed by lethal injection on April 23, 2019. He was 65 years old.
Any last words? Last meal requests?
Last meal was pretty standard, actually. Grilled steak, bacon, fries, soda. But no, sources say he had no final words before he was pronounced dead.
Was anyone there to witness it?
Yes, quite a few people, mostly relatives of his victims. They weren't there for him, obviously. They're there to see it through, to confirm he faced that final punishment.
So let's bring it back to Lisa McVeigh, the survivor at the center of this. What happened to her? Where is she now?
Lisa's story after the ordeal is, well, it's inspiring, really. She didn't just survive, she channeled that experience.
How so?
She became a licensed therapist. She specializes in helping victims of sexual assault and trauma. Dedicates her work to protecting kids and supporting survivors.
That's incredible, turning her trauma into helping others.
Yeah, and she built a life for herself, has 2 daughters. She's a grandmother now. But maybe the most powerful thing is her own perspective on it all.
What does she say about it? Especially around the time of his execution.
She expressed something really complex. Gratitude. Not for what he did, obviously, but for what that experience taught her.
Gratitude.
She said that day, facing death, was the day she truly learned the value of her own life. That moment when her suicidal thoughts vanished and she just wanted to live, it fundamentally changed her.
The trauma became a catalyst.
Paradoxically, yes. It ignited her will to survive, to fight, and ultimately to build a meaningful life and help others. She credits that horrific experience with giving her that drive, that perspective.
That's a really profound takeaway. So this story, it's about terrible crimes, yes, but it's so much more about Lisa McVeigh's resilience.
Absolutely. Her strength, her quick thinking under pressure, maybe skills she didn't even know she had, or perhaps honed by past trauma, allowed her to outwit and survive someone who rarely let victims live.
You know, one source mentioned a slight connection, maybe thematic, to the movie Saw. The idea of forcing someone to appreciate life.
It's an interesting parallel, isn't it? That facing death made Lisa value her life so intensely, it resonates with what she herself said.
And it's a stark reminder for all of us, maybe, about staying aware, not being complacent. Because, as this story shows, terrible things can happen unexpectedly.
Yeah, awareness is key. So what does this all mean? I think it shows how devastating trauma can be, obviously. But it also shows, in rare, extraordinary cases like Lisa's, how survivors can find this incredible inner strength.
And not just survive, but build something positive from it. Like Lisa dedicating her life to helping others navigate that same darkness.
Which leaves you with a really important question, I think. How is it that sometimes experiencing the deepest darkness can somehow, for some people, illuminate the incredible preciousness of light?
It's a lot to take in, definitely. But Lisa McVeigh's story is just such a powerful testament to the human spirit's strength. We hope exploring these sources with us has been informative for you.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.